Hello friends, SentinalhMC here, and welcome back to our Factorio Tutorials series, also known as Factutorials. In this episode we're going to go over the lab and research. Research is really important in Factorio. It's basically the bedrock. The research tree and the research system is how you unlock better stuff and how you progress through the game and eventually win it. You can't do very much at all without research. So if I hit T to open my research tree, you can see there's a ton of stuff here on the left that you'll end up researching. Most of it's green on this screen because I'm in a creative world and I have everything unlocked by default. When you first start the game, everything's going to be either red or yellow. Red items you can't get yet. Yellow items are the ones that you can research. You have to research other things in order to unlock additional research. When you research things, they turn green and they drop to the bottom of the list. You can always review them in your tech tree, but it gets them out of the way and it's kind of nice. The very first technology that you want to get in Factorio is called automation. Obviously, Factorio is a game all about automation. You want to try and do as little manual labor as possible as you progress through the game. You'll unlock more and more ways to automate basically everything until all you have to do is place down blueprints and robots will come and build it all for you using components that your factory builds because you've set it up in such a way that you don't have to craft anything manually. I mean, that's quite difficult to do, crafting everything automatically, but it's possible. And it all starts here at automation. Automation requires 10 science packs. I'll show you how to read this screen. It tells you right here how much it's going to cost. This is a science pack. These are red science packs, and it says 10 of them right here, times 10. A little number 1 here, times 10. Which means that in order to get automation researched, you're going to need 10 of these. It shows you right here the things that will be unlocked by that research, and it'll show here how much time it takes to research one unit in the lab. In this case, 10 seconds. So it's not going to take that long to research automation. So how do you get science packs, and what is the lab? The lab is this machine right here, this block. I'm going to place one down for you. This is the most important thing in all of Factorio just because you can't do anything unless you can satisfy the requirements of these guys. In order to craft them in the early game, you're going to have to craft your first ones manually. You're going to need 10 electronic circuits, 10 gear wheels, and 4 transport belts. So get yourself mining some copper and iron because you're going to need 36 iron and 15 copper. And they craft kind of slowly. If you craft it from basic components, the iron and copper plates, it's going to take you 201 seconds, which is quite a bit of time. But you have to do it because at this point you have no means of crafting anything automatically, which is your whole reason for getting the lab. Once you've placed your lab down, you just need to provide it with some power. I've got these substations set up to give me a big area of power, but at the beginning of the game, you're going to craft yourself some small electronic poles. Hopefully by the time you're looking to build a lab, you've already got yourself some electric mining drills set up, which we'll talk about in a future episode as well. I'm just sort of jumping around in this series. I'm not really covering it in any particular order. So once you get your lab, and once you've given it some power, you're going to craft yourself these red science packs. They're going to require 1 copper plate and 1 iron gear wheel, and you're going to craft 10 of them. Don't craft any more by hand, because as soon as you research this, you can make them all automatically. So place your science packs inside the lab, hit T to open your research screen, and select automation, and there'll be a button that says research. If I click here, you can see what this button looks like over here on the right, this research button. So research the technology and then wait. If you want it to go faster, make some more labs. There's no limit to the number of labs that you can have placed, and you're going to want many of these. I have about 12 of them in my factory. I like 12 of them. I think it's a good amount. You can go from 10 to 8 to 10, but I like 12. I don't know if it's the ideal number of labs, but it works for me. You're going to want at least 10 pretty quickly in the game anyway. The more labs you have, the faster it goes, because each lab is contributing towards the research. That's how it works. As long as the lab is doing research with the proper science packs, it'll work. And all you have to do in order to supply your lab is simply place an inserter from a conveyor belt carrying your science packs. You don't need to ever take anything out of the lab, so you only ever have to have inserters going into the lab. You'll want to put these labs in a safe place. You definitely don't want your labs getting attacked. So I'd recommend heavily defending them by putting them in the center of your compound. Now, once you've researched automation, which, as I said, is the very first thing you need to research because you need to get your hands on this assembling machine, you now have the ability to craft science packs automatically. So how do you do that? Well, if we take a look at what the science pack requires again, 1 copper plate, 1 iron gear wheel. This means that you're going to want to craft yourself some assemblers. The assembler is very easy to craft. It requires 3 electric circuits, 5 gear wheels, and 9 iron plates for a total of 22 iron and 4.5 copper. It's going to take 99.5 seconds to craft, and once you have one, you can craft, well, 1 component. You're going to need 2 of these if you want to craft your red science. That's because one of them can craft red science, while the other needs to craft the gear wheels that form one of the components of the red science. So get yourself your assembling machines, boop and boop. This will be the very basic setup for getting early game red science. A couple of red science assemblers plus a gear wheel assembler. Now, 1 gear wheel assembler produces more than enough gears to supply multiple red science assemblers. The simplest way that you could possibly set up the relationship between these is just to stick them close enough together so that you can just place them like this and go like that. You really wouldn't want to do this because it takes up a lot of space and it's really unsightly. So just use yourself some conveyor belts like so, and you can have as many of these as you want. Now, when it comes to crafting science, there's a pretty standard agreement among the Factorio community that the best way to do it is to try and craft 1 of these per second in whatever facility that you set up. For red science, that means having 5 assemblers all producing the red science. So you're going to need to supply enough copper and enough gear wheels in order to run this, in order to supply this. So if we had, let's say, iron down here, and I'm just going to simulate it by placing a bunch of iron in an iron chest. Because I'm in creative mode, I can get all the iron that I could ever want. Okay, so we have iron being supplied here, and now we need to put it into our assembling machine. So I'll place another inserter here, and we're putting iron into our gear wheel assembler. Then we'll put gears onto this belt. Now, if we watch this thing work, we can see that 1 assembler on each side is enough to keep this fully fueled with iron and running. Or is it? You see that? You see how every once in a while it takes a second? You can easily solve this by adding a second inserter. In fact, we're going to want to put a fast insert down here just for the purposes of simulating a proper iron supply. Every gear wheel requires 2 iron plates, so if you want to make absolutely sure that you never have a slowdown, 2 inserters will do it. Now we have gear wheels over here. We're going to want to let me get some more power set up over here. Where's my substations? Here we go. Oh, I already had them. I'm so like unprepared for things like this, even though I can literally prepare for as long as I want. Okay, so we're supplying gear wheels now. We need to also supply copper. I'm going to choose to do that the same way I did it the other side. I'm just going to use some underground belts so that I can get it where I want it. I'll just place a chest. I'll use a fast inserter. And then I'll just spawn myself some copper plates and throw them in the chest. This is standing in for your smelting system, your mining and smelting. See, now we have copper plates and we have iron gear wheels, and we actually don't need to do it this way because we could just go like this and have them both on the same belt. This is an option, although Depending on how you're setting up your factory, you may not want to do this. You may want to keep things separate. Waterlubber is a big fan of avoiding what we call spaghetti factories, where you have belts and craziness going everywhere. But if you're new to Factorio, I wouldn't worry too much. Now we're simply going to put an inserter on each one of these so that they're drawing the copper plates and the iron gear wheels. Now we can see that how quickly these things craft. They craft a bit slowly. It requires 5 seconds for each one. That's why we have 5 assemblers, because we want to get 1 per second, and it takes 5 seconds. We need 5 assemblers producing the red science. Let's go ahead and run it down this way, and we'll place our inserters on the other side in order to output our red science onto this belt. I'll get some more transport belts because I can, and we'll run them over to this lab. Oops, I actually put that too close. So we're going to run it like this. So now we are supplying our lab with red science. If we were researching something that required red science, and I can't actually do that because I'm in creative and I have everything already researched, then what you could do is you can take a look and you can see how many red sciences you're producing. We're producing quite a lot. One lab is definitely not enough to use up this much red science. So just add more labs. Add more labs until the red science is keeping up with the number of labs you have. And there you go. You'll have automatic science. It's actually pretty easy. You'll want to get this as quickly as possible. After you've researched automation, a good rule of thumb is to never craft science manually again. You have the assemblers. Make use of them. Automate everything that you need a lot of so that you don't have to craft it yourself. That's the basis of Factorio. I hope you've enjoyed this episode about the basics on labs, as well as the crafting of red science. In future episodes, we'll cover the more advanced science packs, like the green science, the blue science, military science, and let's take a look at all the sciences. You start out with red, then you go to green. We also have blue science, and military science, and production science, and then high-tech science. And it gets progressively harder, exponentially so in my opinion. But just at the moment, in the early game, you've got your basic red science. And now you know how to produce it. Use 5 assemblers, supply it with enough resources, and supply enough labs to use the red science at a pretty good pace. The more labs you have, the faster everything goes. And in Factorio, the faster you can progress, the better. Thank you so much for watching. Like and comment the video down below if you did enjoy it. Suggest topics for future episodes of Factutorials. And if I get suggestions, I'll cover those topics first. Join our Discord if you're interested in learning more. We have several people in the Discord who are pretty much experts at Factorio, Waterlubber being, in my opinion, foremost amongst them. He's played so much, he basically knows absolutely everything. So if you have any pressing questions about Factorio, here I might be able to answer, and he definitely could. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Sentinel H, and I'm signing out.